welcome to another coffee break. I am your host, Nurse Mariesha Charlton. I am a registered nurse and the utilization nurse at BahamaHealth. And I am joined today with a special guest, Nurse Rhonda Kemp. Nurse Kemp, are you there?
Yes, good morning, I'm here. Good morning, everybody. And I'd like to thank Mariesha and Family Guardian, not Family Guardian, BahamaHealth for this opportunity to share with you guys. And I look forward to answering any questions that you have. And I hope that everybody will get something from this presentation.
Thank you, Nurse Kemp. Welcome, welcome. And Family Guardian, BahamaHealth, we are one umbrella, so it's okay if you say Family Guardian too. And so we will get started with our presentation. Now, today we're going to be continuing our discussion on breastfeeding. I don't know if any of you were aware, but earlier this month was World Breastfeeding recognition. That would have been the 4th of August, thereabouts. And so just in keeping with, keeping you informed, we discussed nutrition in breastfeeding. And so we're going to continue with that. And we're also going to give you some tips on how to maintain lactation. And so we'd like you to, you can join, you can invite your friends, family. You can also share the link. If you have any comments, any questions, we'll have a time for that. You can just drop those in the chat and we'll be happy to accommodate you. Okay, so let's get started. The question, what is breastfeeding and why do women do it? We hear about breastfeeding all the time, breastfeeding, and it sounds pretty self-explanatory, but breastfeeding is feeding or providing nutrition for a human infant from the breast. And so that can be expressed breast milk using a pump and then you're giving it to the infant that way, or directly to the breast from the mom to the baby. And so the question is, well, why do women do it? Well, there are many benefits to breastfeeding. Nurse Kemp, do you agree?
Yes, there are many benefits for the mom and the baby. And so that women know there is a difference when we talk about breastfeeding, we categorize it because there are some women who mix breastfeeding with formula, and then there are some women who exclusively breastfeed. So yes, you will get the most benefits from exclusively breastfeeding your baby for the first 6 months of life. And yes, so some of those benefits would be, well, the first benefit the baby would get is it kickstarts their immune system the very first time you put that baby on the breast. And then breast milk is very specific to you and your baby. So it will provide your baby with everything that it needs for growth and development. So you don't have to be reading labels or worrying about what in this and who put something in that. So your body will provide everything instinctively. You don't have to think about it. You just put your baby to the breast and get whatever you need. And then you always hear about babies that they're smarter when they're breastfeeding. Of course, that has to do with whatever you're giving to your baby actively and immediately starts to grow the brain. And so your baby brain grows at a faster rate than their neurons link. You're touching them, you're feeling them, you're providing different stimulation for them so their brains grow at a faster, more complex rate than yes, if you would just give. Not the formula is bad, but breast milk is the best. You understand? And
yes,
then mothers,
mm-hmm.
Mothers, for mummies, you have decreased risk of illnesses like breast cancers, ovarian cancers, reduced risk of developing type 2 diabetes. Mm-hmm. The longer you breastfeed, the more you reap these benefits, and they are a lot. They last you for a lifetime, not only for the period that you're breastfeeding. So there are many other, I'm sure Mariesha can tell you some more, but there are many other benefits to breastfeeding, and most of them last a lifetime for you and the baby.
Yes, yes, absolutely. I agree with you. There are many benefits. I like to think about even the more, I guess, the economic side, whereas you don't have to purchase any bottles if you don't want to.
Yes,
You know, and so you don't
definitely,
have to
yes.
sanitize, you don't have to sterilize anything.
Mhm.
And it's always available. You don't have to go and heat up the water and then now mix the formula. You know, the breast milk,
Listen.
it's there. It's at the right temperature. You know, it's in the right amounts. Everything about
Mhm.
it is just so right.
Yes,
Yes,
especially at 2 o'clock in the morning when you stumbling around, you need that sleep. Ain't nobody trying to get up
yes.
to be warming up no bottle and making sure it don't burn the baby. Take
Okay.
that breast out and you want baby go right back to sleep. You
And
understand?
everybody
I
happy.
enjoyed that.
I did
Yes,
too.
everybody's very happy.
Yes.
And then for those ladies who the big thing on the internet was the snapback.
Oh
Listen, that
yes.
snapback is real with breastfeeding. Hello, that tummy goes
Listen.
back into that spine, and you're ready to put those tight jeans, but don't put too much tight jeans. You're ready to put them tight jeans back on whenever you're ready.
That's right. You get that body, you get that figure back. Yes.
Mhm.
And so, so for new moms who are preparing, I guess the pregnant women, if there are any on our presentation today, they want to know, well, how do you prepare for breastfeeding? You know, or if you're a new mom and you may be having some challenges, maybe with latching or whatever, but there are some things that we want to discuss prior to you even getting to that point. And that is nutrition. Okay. Um, and so we're going to get really into the meat of our presentation, and we want to talk to you about some of the nutritional aspects of breastfeeding and why it's so important for you and for your baby. And so one of the things is really by making better food choices. And by that, we mean choosing food that is nutrient dense. Um, and these are foods that are packed with important nutrients that are needed for you and baby, like iron, zinc, calcium, you know, and really kind of staving away from those foods that will not really provide much nutrient content, or would be considered empty calories. And so to do this, one of the things is really eating from, you know, the major food groups. If you consider the food pyramid, you know, you have those food areas like your proteins and your, you know, your fats. And so there you would have areas that they say to be very sparing with those areas. And then there are things that they say, well, you know, these are the portions and this is the amount that you need to be looking at. But we're looking at things like fish and seafood, like salmon. Salmon is all the rave now. Seaweed, if you're into that. Your beans and legumes, fruits and vegetables, nuts and seeds, and there are even healthy fats. One of the fruits, I think it's now in season, is avocado, or is it a vegetable? I'm not sure. Nurse Kemp, I know you love those. um,
Oh
and
yes, the avocado, most definitely.
yes. Yeah. And so I know, you know, that is filled with healthy fats. Okay. And then again, like we said, you want to avoid as much as possible empty calories, because you need to have that nutritional store for you and baby, because, you know, you're feeding yourself, but you're also feeding another person and they're going to be pulling from you. And you know, the nutritional demands in terms of the caloric intake that is needed for breastfeeding, you need at least an additional 500 calories per day. And so it would be better suited for you if those calories are nutritional versus, you know, non-nutritional. Another one of the things we would encourage you to do is to avoid those sugary drinks, you know, the sodas that are so high in the sugary content, and those processed foods, carbonated beverages, okay? And one of the things also is that, you know, if you want to give your baby, you know, healthy milk, then you have to also be inputting something healthy, because the baby is essentially pulling from you. Nurse Kemp, do you have anything to add in terms of, you know, food choices?
No, you did a pretty good job.
Okay.
But you can also add things like seeds and nuts. They are also very rich in most of the vitamins, some of the
Yes.
healthy fats
Mhm.
and the minerals and the omega-3 fatty acids that are especially
Yes.
important for brain development in the baby.
Yes.
Yeah, so
Yes.
that's
Absolutely.
all I would like to add.
Okay.
And
Awesome.
you mention water, making sure you're staying hydrated, careful with your water
Mhm.
intake because
Mhm.
breastfeeding makes you very thirsty. So you drink to thirst. You don't have to overdo it and be very conscious to make sure I'm
Yes.
getting a certain amount. Just drink to thirst.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Absolutely. That yes, and that is absolutely correct. And so just in continuing with this portion, we're talking about nutritional balance. Like we mentioned before, there are nutrients that are necessary for you and for the baby, for the mom and the baby, and they help to support the mom's health during breastfeeding and replenishing those much needed nutrients. And these are just some of those vitamins and minerals that are very necessary and where you can find them. You have your B1, which is thiamine, and this can be found in fish, pork, seeds, nuts, beans. And so there are many others there, and there is a variety, but you would also find that a lot of them are repetitious. And you would find some you would have it in nuts, but you also have it in meat. And so it varies based on, what your nutrition is like. If you want to do more vegan, then, you would have to make sure that you're getting that balance throughout your diet. If you want to mix it, meat and veggies, whatever, then you want to make sure you're having that, a good mixture of all of the necessary vitamins and the nutrients that are needed for you and baby. Sorry, this was just more talking about folate, calcium, iron, copper, and zinc. And so now I've had questions, women have asked me, well, what about taking, supplements, etc., while you're breastfeeding? Now, Nurse Kemp, you can also, you can chime in on this as well. Now, when I breastfed, I simply took whatever I was taking when I was pregnant, that same prenatal vitamin. That is what I used. But I know that sometimes people want to do other things, or maybe it's a part of some, additional intake or some supplement to the diet. Do you have any advice in this regard?
The only advice I would have is yes, you can choose to take a multivitamin or continue with your prenatal vitamins if you choose.
Mhm.
However, if you're eating a well-balanced diet, there's really no need for extra supplementation. You don't have
Right.
to worry about that if you don't want to. And
Yes.
then because sometimes when we look at eating a well-balanced, nutritious diet, some people start to get nervous and frantic, and they think that it means that I need to go to the store and I need to buy these expensive peppers and these, you
Yes.
don't have to do those things. You eat things that are seasonal, like your
Yes.
mangoes and your canaps and dillies and things like that. And
Right.
then
Right.
recognize and realize that if you eat peas and rice, you basically ate almost a balanced meal because your peas are your protein and that's your
Yes.
legumes. And
Mhm.
your rice, I know we have challenges now where people aren't able to afford some of the things that they need to recognize. So sometimes what you're eating already, you can
Yes.
continue with that, just tweak it. Just try
Mhm.
to add more vegetables to your diet. Try to add more colors to your diet when you eat. So you don't have to go to the food store and spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars to
Mhm.
try to make yourself feel as if you're getting the best nutrition for yourself and your baby in the morning when you wake up. And you have our typical grits and tuna. Put more onions in there, put more sweet pepper in there, add a little fresh lemon in there or limes. You understand? Put some herbs in there if you can grow your own herbs from your garden. Things like
Yes.
that help you. And it's cost effective. Your sardine, I like sardine and I like my pepper and my onions and things like that. That's fruits
Yes.
and that's vegetables. And that's your salmon with the bone. That's a good source of calcium. That's a
Yes.
good fish choice to make for pregnant and breastfeeding women. So you don't have to break the bank to eat
Yes.
healthy. Try to get in contact with your local persons who are selling their tomatoes and things like that. And you can't eat good on a limited,
On a
what I'm
budget,
trying to say,
yeah.
on limited funds. Yes, on a budget, yeah. You don't have to break bank and go
Yes.
buy all those expensive things to get the best feed in your baby. But yes, in
Yes.
terms of supplements, go ahead and take your multivitamin if you feel like you're not going to make the best food choices. So at least you're putting something in that your
Yes.
body can use.
Yes, absolutely. I agree. And, you want to make sure that it's not, because I know that there are some things that you really should kind of stay away from when you're breastfeeding because, these things can affect the baby. So you want to make sure it's safe, it's something that's safe. It's not, those weight loss things, etc. Because like we said before, one of the benefits of breastfeeding is you're going to burn those calories. And so the baby will take what he needs. Remember, we had a lecturer in college who would say, well, the baby's going to take what they need and the rest is yours to deal with.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so let's just talk just briefly about some do's and don'ts. Like we mentioned, a lot of it, we have already said before, you want to make sure it's a balanced, nutrient-dense meal. Rest and relaxation, because your body needs, now this, like we said, breastfeeding will drain you. It takes a whole lot of energy from you, and and so you want to make sure that you're well rested as much as possible. I know that it sounds like what they call it, a textbook recommendation, because how much rest can you really get with a young baby? But as much as possible, or sleep when the baby sleeps. Lots of water for hydration, and like we said, safe supplements when needed, and you make sure that you're getting sufficient nutrients for you and for baby. Avoid, that should, I wish this was in bold and red. Avoid junk and unhealthy foods. Avoid those sugary and carbonated drinks. Alcohol and coffee can transfer into the breast milk. Therefore, it should be avoided. Let me say that again. Alcohol and coffee can transfer into the breast milk, and therefore it should be avoided. Now, I know some people who say, well, if they drink something, then they're gonna pump it and dump it, or probably just make sure they pre-pump so that the baby has something for the time when the feeding is necessary, and then they can feed the baby, but still just throw out the breast milk that would have the alcohol in it. But definitely, make sure that everything that you're putting in, this is one of the key things. Whatever you're putting into yourself, the baby's getting the same thing, and so you want to make sure it's healthy and nutritional. And I thought this picture was interesting because here it is. We water the plants with water. We give them water, but we give ourselves and our kids these types of unhealthy things, and so. The question is, if you give your plants this, then why give your kids that? Okay, and so that is the end of this presentation. Are there any questions? Let's see here.
Yes, Mariesha, I see there is a question. It isn't the first question. I'll give you a chance to go back to the first question, but this question has to do with coffee. And Miss Thunderberg, I apologize if I'm not saying that correctly. How detrimental is decaf coffee to your milk development? Nothing really affects your milk development simply because, well, I shouldn't say nothing. Your milk development is not dependent on your diet. Your body will produce the milk. Your body will take from the mother to produce the milk. And the stimulus it needs to make the milk will come from the baby. So when the baby latches and starts to suck, it sends signal to the brain that I need to start making more, not making milk, I need to start making more milk. Yes. And if the baby's just being born, I need to change now from colostrum to mature milk. So there are studies that say, I'll just speak to this, caffeine, and in terms of breastfeeding, there are studies that say you can have a cup or two of coffee. You can, if you like, if you need that to survive, then do that. But watch your baby, because remember, a newborn baby's body cannot metabolize these things the way the adult body does. So some coffee, some caffeine will pass through into your breast milk. However, it may, but if you're one of those persons who drinks coffee around the clock, I would advise you to not do that. Try to find a way to cut back in your pregnancy so that when it comes time for you to breastfeed, you won't have a problem trying to control the amount of caffeine that you give to your baby. And the thing with the alcohol, I just don't advise moms to work. Even though there are studies that say, oh, what they say is, if you feel drunk or tipsy, then that's the amount of alcohol that's in your breast milk. And to me, I would not want to give that to my baby. Why would you give your baby alcohol tainted breast milk? It's not going to do anything for the baby, and some babies refuse to drink it. So you're taking away from your baby, and you're taking away from your breastfeeding success and journey. So my advice is just not to. I mean, if you're one of those people who really need a drink, try mocktails, they say, and see how that works for you. But
what is that?
It as mocktails, they call them. It's a drink without the alcohol. Or try something else. Do something for a distraction.
So you're tricking your brain.
Think
you're
about, yes, you're only breastfeeding for, compared to the life of a baby, for a very relatively short period. Just make the most of it, the best you can of it, and then move forward. You won't miss it that much, I promise you.
Right.
I went through a period where I felt like I needed several drinks. I made it, so it's rough, but you'll make it.
Yes, you will do it. Women have been doing it for centuries. Another thing too with the coffee, I know we say it's decaf. It doesn't mean that there isn't any caffeine at all. It's just, less than, the caffeinated, because coffee is made of beans, and, it's the caffeine in the beans that makes it taste so, I'm not going to say yummy, but yeah, I don't want to tempt anybody. But are there any other questions? I see another question here. Can my baby get gas from my milk if I miss meals? Nurse Kemp? Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. I don't think I said this earlier, but Nurse Kemp is a lactation counselor. And so this here is her area of expertise.
Yes. No, your baby will not get gas if you miss a meal or if you don't eat. Your breast and your gut is not connected in any way. So you can go ahead and safely breastfeed and your baby will not get gas. If your baby has gas, it's something else that's going on that you need to look into, but feel free to breastfeed. As a matter of fact, even though we're giving you these tips and this advice, there is no magic bullet. There is no surefire way for you to breastfeed successfully unless you do three things. The best thing to do is to, when your baby is born, you speak ahead of time with your midwife or your physician, whomever is delivering the baby, and you tell them, when my baby is born, if everything is okay with me and my baby, I would like to hold my baby skin to skin, no, nothing on. If you choose, you can put on a pamper, because sometimes these babies get a little loose with the bowels and
they surprise you.
You can, yes, skin to skin, your chest is naked, free of clothing, put the baby skin to your chest, and let the baby do its work. And we call this the magic hour. Yes. The baby will actually crawl from your abdomen all the way up to your breast, and they will try to attach themselves, and they will attach themselves if you leave them alone. Yes. That's that time to get familiar with you, familiar with the breast, feel mommy, regulate their temperature, regulate their heartbeat, and they will begin to breastfeed, and this is the best time to start breastfeeding because the baby is alert.
Yes.
They are willing to learn, and they will be more willing to attach to the breast at that point in time. And when they do this, the next time they attach, they're like, oh, I remember doing this, and they're more willing to breastfeed at later feeds. You understand? And then the next thing you want to do is to ensure that your baby is latched correctly. I wish I had a picture up to show you, but the wide mouth. First, your baby must be tummy to tummy, whatever position, the cradle hold. This is for the cradle hold that I am describing, because there are so many positions and so many women choose different positions for whatever is comfortable for them, and that is fine. But the basic cradle hold, your baby should be tummy to tummy. His or her tummy touches yours. And they should be in a straight line, tucked closely to your body, head turned towards the breast. So the nose of the baby is pointing to the tip of your breast. There's no restriction at the head, at the back of the head of the baby. That baby's head should be, and that's important, the baby's head should be free to move so that he or she can attach to the breast without you manipulating the movement. And for women who have big breasts, you may hold the breast a little or put a towel under, but there's really, I know we're taught to hold the breast a certain way, and you know, you do the cigarette hold and the U hold and all that. None of that is necessary if your baby is self-attaching. And you will notice that as the baby gets more comfortable with breastfeeding, you almost, they take the breast out themselves and do what they gotta do. Like, okay, I have to do nothing, just, you know, so they really, they're very, very intelligent beings right from birth, and they will do what they have to do. And it's their God-given instinct to survive, and that is very strong. So there's not much manipulation you have to do. And the third thing is, remember that your breast needs to be emptied frequently and completely. In the first 3 to 4 days, your breast may not get very firm and full, and that's fine, because in those first few days, colostrum is there. That's that clear, yellowish, milkyish like fluid, and that is what your baby needs in that first few days. So you don't worry about the amount that's coming out. You can't see it because you can't see 3 breasts, and you don't worry about if the baby is getting enough. You just know that you must feed frequently, and your breasts need to be emptied at every feeding. If you don't do these things, your body will say, I don't need to make milk, and therefore your milk supply will drop. That is the important part, that especially those last 2, ensuring that the baby is latched correctly to get the milk from the body, and ensure that the milk is moved out of the breast frequently and completely. Those 2 are the most important things if you want to be successful in your breastfeeding. Now, breastfeeding, although it is natural, it is not always easy. It will not always come naturally to every baby. One mother can breastfeed with no complication. That baby will probably put itself on the breast, and the other baby, she will struggle. And don't feel bad about that. Remember that your baby has to learn. This is new. All they've been doing was swimming around in there and kicking you and making you feel bad. And so they have to come out here and learn how to breastfeed. Do not feel afraid to speak up for yourself and your baby in hospital. If you do not want your baby to have formula, do not give your baby formula. Ask that your baby not be given formula. For breastfeeding, you really have to prepare yourself from the moment that you find out you're pregnant, because everything that follows, if there's not an emergency, depends on how successful you can be. Because if you're raggedy and you're tired, you will not want to breastfeed. You just want to sleep, and that is normal. That is okay, but ask for help. Because a nurse is, now in these challenging times, we understand your partner can't be there, and many times, the nurse will not be there, but ask anyway, so that they can try their best to give. If a nurse hears that you want to breastfeed, she will try her best to give that to you, to give you what you need.
To accommodate your desire.
If you have a C-section, Don't be afraid to ask them to put that baby onto your chest. That's your body and that's your baby. Remember that you have the power. You need to take your power and exercise it as you feel fit whenever it's okay. And if there's an emergency going on, of course you can't do these things, unfortunately, but just ask them nicely. Ask your doctor, can you put the baby on my chest while they're stitching me up after the surgery for as long as possible, so at least you have that skin to skin bonding.
That contact.
Maybe the baby can attach. You know? Yes, and if it's okay if the nurse can stay or some nurse can stay with you, ask them to leave the baby if the baby managed to get attached. They don't need you to be very mobile after C-section, you know?
Right.
And even if you only get that 1 hour or even 30 minutes, it's better than nothing. Yeah,
Right.
so those are just those 3 points. Proper latch on within the first hour, proper latch on, and frequent and complete emptying of the breast. Those are very important things if you want to be successful in your breastfeeding journey.
Absolutely.
I hope I'm taking up a lot of time.
We just have 2 more questions and then we have a trivia and we're just about out of time. So we're gonna look at these quickly. So the question is, does there come a time when your body just stops producing milk, even though you do have a diet that is considered to be prime or for lactation? How do you know when you just stop trying, when you just give up and say, you know what, that's it, I'm not going to do anything else?
Your body will stop producing. There are many different things that affect your breast milk production and how you maintain your supply. So you need to breastfeed around the clock. Exclusive breastfeeding means that you're feeding that baby whenever the baby says they are hungry. You cannot give a pacifier because that means that when the baby probably wanted to eat, you pacified it into sleep when you should have been telling your body this baby needs more milk. So no pacifiers. Feeding the baby whenever they want to be attached to the breast, because babies use your breast for many reasons as well. So they may need to be comforted, but still that's going to give your body the extra boost to make some more milk because the baby needs it for whatever reason they need it for.
Right.
So just exclusive, no pacifiers, no bottles, because that confuses the baby. And babies are smart. They know they don't have to, when you put a baby to the breast, they have to work. And their mouths and their muscles and the jaw works in a different way to get the milk from the breast. Whereas you put them on the bottle, their mouth shape is a different way and it's easier. You basically pouring that milk into their mouth. So this baby say, pull, they say, okay, I want that easy way where
it's less work.
So I can make you, yes, I can make you give me that one. So you don't give them any bottles. You put your baby to the breast and you breastfeed around the clock. And then you have to be aware of your environment as well. If you're having situations and things that are making you feel stressed, that can impact your breast. It won't impact your ability to breastfeed, but it may impact the amount you make. Therefore, you may see a drop in your supply. And do not rely. I know there are always these things that there are these people who tout these things and say, oh, this is going to make your breast milk go up and drink this Gatorade mixed with this. I see all kind of weird and strange things. But there is nothing. There are some foods that may potentially, that can increase your breast milk supply. But if you're already eating a proper diet, then you don't have to worry about that.
Right.
Just make sure that your baby is latched on properly and make sure you're feeding. And it's normal for a baby to feel like they just stuck on your breast for the first few weeks of life. That's normal. That's how it's supposed to be, because they're telling the body, feed me, because I'm growing really, really fast. I'm growing real fast. So I need this milk. So hurry up, give this to me. That's normal. So expect that. But you need support. You need to find a good support system. What my husband did, and I thought about that the other day, that just blew my mind. It's like, I would have to get, and I was mad because I was like, buddy, I getting up through the night and you ain't moving. But when the morning came, I can sleep. He would take the baby when it's time to feed. He would let the baby latch on, because after a certain point, mommy doesn't need to do anything to latch the baby. And he would sit there and watch while the baby's breastfed. And when they were done, he would do the burping and do the diaper change and let me continue sleeping. And I was semi-aware of that, but I was also resting. So you need a good support system to ensure don't stop. I know you're tired, and I know sometimes it's difficult and it's frustrating, but do not stop. And for those moms who have to go back to work, you need to plan for that. You need to plan, where am I gonna go to breast? Is there somewhere I can go at my job where I can pump to breast so that I can make milk for my baby? Because if you go to work and you do not empty your breast, that impacts the amount of milk that you will have. So you have to plan ahead, where can I go to pump or express? Because you don't really, I never bought a pump. That I did, I bought a pump and that was working on my nerves. So I did manual expression and I would get those big bottles. I would get 2 of those and a little full. And that was my pumping for my shift at work. So you don't need a pump to be successful. You can do manual expression and still get milk for your baby. So make sure when you're at work, when you go back to work, if you're working, you have to keep pumping and you have to make sure you're in an environment that is comfortable for you. So speak to your boss, your supervisor, whoever, ask them, where can I go? I really had to plan because there's nowhere in the hospital that they have designated as, and I would love to see that, as a breastfeeding area. So you plan and you put your plan into action as much as possible to make sure that you're successful. It calls for a lot, but then your baby's worth it and you're worth it. Okay, is there another question? My first 2 babies, they fed for a little longer. And Daria came along and she decided she was feeding for 3 to 5 minutes and she was done. And I was very, very anxious about that. But she was, once your baby is passing, wetting 6 to 8 pampers a day and about 3 poops per day, and your baby is growing and gaining weight, you know your baby's getting enough milk. I hope that answered your question, Ms. Smith.
Yes, this has been such an exciting presentation. I'm sorry we are out of time, but if you have further questions, could you, Nurse Kemp, can you provide a contact where, you know, any of our participants can reach you if they have more questions that need answers, please? An email or...
Yes, I'm going to put my email in the chat.
Okay, so while she does that, we do have a trivia. We were